Hello and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Bigfoot Outlaw family. We are here on the Bigfoot Outlaw channel, a channel chock full of paranormal content. On this special Halloween program, we've got an extensively special guest for you who is going to absolutely blow your socks off. But before we start, a quick shout out to all new viewers. If you're watching us anywhere that's not on the Bigfoot Outlaw YouTube channel, please make sure that you hop on, like, subscribe, and get involved. Your messages will show up at the bottom, just like you can see everybody greeting each other. Sabrina, you made it. Hey guys. We will be doing a real live reading on screen, on air, and we will be doing some mini readings towards the end of the show as well. But before we get cracking with the reading, please, everybody, put your hands together for our special guest, my friend and absolute superstar, Carrie Kirkpatrick. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Inbaal. It's so lovely to be on screen with you again.
So exciting. I was going to sort of try and dig up a photo of the last time that we worked together, but I never got a chance to. We did a fabulous, very glamorous party, about 5 years ago in London?
We did, yes. We did a lovely party, and that was so lovely to see you again because we used to work on TV together so much, didn't we?
We did. I was thinking this week, it's really funny because just before we spoke, I was thinking how much I owe you because maybe 22 years ago or something, you were filming. Right, everybody. So Carrie is an accomplished psychic, an established witch, and also a filmmaker. And for a film that you were making like years and years and years ago, you filmed me for a small bit and you said, really for camera, your makeup should be a little more like this, a little more like that. That works better on camera. And I valued that so much. And I ran to a friend of mine who used to work in Boots selling makeup. And I was like, what do? I have these instructions. You make it for me. You tell me what to buy. And then I came for the filming with that new face. And up until now, I really rely on the face for everything I do. And I owe that to you so much.
Oh, bless. Well, you've got a beautiful face, absolutely beautiful face. I actually remember that. It was just something about the color it was beautiful makeup for going to a party. But on the camera, I remember thinking, oh, it was almost like it was distracting, I think. And so what you had afterwards was just enhancing your beauty. And I guess really that's what we're all meant to do, isn't it? But we don't always end up doing that. Yeah.
That's what we go for. So we knew each other as witches. Yeah. I think the first time I met you was in your house for a Burns night, but I couldn't stay. Yeah. And then I felt very, very lucky to be invited to one of your Yuletide events, your coveted, unticketed Yuletide events. You either got invited or you didn't get invited. And that was a moment. I don't want to go into all of my stories, but there was a moment there that changed my trajectory a lot as well. A lot. But not about me. I want to know such a lot about you because obviously I've worked with you as a psychic on Psychic Interactive TV, which was the first interactive show in the UK. Again, it's coming up to 20 years now. Do you know?
Oh, my word, already. And when I was working there, I had a baby and he's now just gone off to university, 6'2". He's like, oh my God.
He's not a baby anymore. No. And so between us, we've sort of changed the face of psychics in the UK because before the show, psychics were kind of hidden, mysterious, look different, maybe behave different. And we got to sort of go on camera and show people that psychics are people, and just sort of, do a job and have a skill that helps us, do all sorts of things. But with the psychic stuff and with the witchy stuff, the reason we caught up just recently is because you've got an incredible project on that I would love for you to tell everybody about.
Oh, thank you, Inbaal. Yes, I'm very, very excited. I'm working on a film that I've actually been working on, developing it for about 1.5 years now. And it's like I'm kind of channeling the people I'm making the film about. I'm making a film about the witches and the occultists that helped win the war against the Nazi invasion in the Second World War. So what we found is that there were a lot of occultists and psychics and mystics in the UK, and it followed on from this kind of magical revival we had at the turn of the century. And as it came close to the Second World War, as it started, they'd already lived through the First World War, but they were all a little bit too old to go to war. They were sort of like, we wouldn't regard them as old nowadays, but they were middle-aged. They weren't able to go to war, but they had years and years of experience of working with the magical esoteric practices. And we had different people coming from different backgrounds being driven and motivated to come and help and to do their bit to help. They thought that there was going to be a Nazi invasion any day in the summer of 1940 because Belgium had suddenly fallen. The Nazis appeared to be unstoppable. And we now know that the Nazis were working with the occult a great deal. They twisted certain amounts of Blavatsky's teachings, and they had this idea that they were inheriting some sort of superior race, and it was all very twisted. But they were working with Thor, the energy of Thor. They were working with the runes. They were working with the ritual. They built a castle called Wewelsburg Castle that was like a kind of cult center for the SS, and they held mass rituals there, and they were literally using as much occult energy as they possibly could, and also searching for some of the most magical artifacts throughout history, such as the Spear of Destiny. So, we can only speculate whether that's the reason why they suddenly had this unstoppable force kind of sweeping across Europe. But it really was a wave. And to the British, they just felt like literally any day we are going to have them landing on our beaches. I think it was estimated that the Home Guard that was defending the southern coast of the UK, it was estimated they would have lasted 15 minutes if the Nazis had landed. Wow. And so people were really bracing themselves. And this was all after a period really with what was known as the phony war. We declared war against Germany in 1939, and everyone braced themselves, and they evacuated the children, and they all got their gas masks, and they all practiced going into the shelters, but nothing happened. And so they're like, oh, but in 1940, that's when the energy all changed. So what we see now, when we were able to put, after the war ended, and the Allies were able to go and find what was available in Wewelsburg Castle. Obviously, a lot of things were destroyed, but they were able to piece together some of the magic that the Nazis were working with and some of the decisions of when they were made. And the decision to invade France happened by Hitler. Obviously, nobody in the UK knew about that, but that happened in the same couple of days as Dion Fortune was suddenly literally shaken awake by her ascended master guides. She had a spirit guide who was a First World War soldier who was quite full of banter and a bit cockney chappy, which is quite funny because she was very prim and proper. But he brought through these ascended masters who basically selected her to say, right, we need you to get these messages out. And she'd been working in a very secretive magical order called the Fraternity of Inner Light. But the message was, now the gravity of the situation in Europe is such that you must go beyond the secret order. We're telling you now, because she was a medium as well as a ceremonial magician, they said, you've now got to change the direction of the way magic is going to be working. And so she was to start writing letters to an extended network of people and for them to do visualizations every week. And she was literally prompted to do this exactly at the time Hitler gave the order to invade France and to start that wave. And so she did that. she did that, and their visualizations evolved, and they started to bring through Kabbalistic energies. They had lots of links with Glastonbury, and then it became apparent that this battle was really bringing in the Arthurian energies of King Arthur and Merlin and the mythology of Britain there. And Wavelsberg Castle became known really as a kind of a black Camelot, because it was sort of like the polar opposite. So we had this kind of magical astral battle taking place. And it was regarded that really they had to do that because the forces that the Nazis were bringing through magically, military might would not be able to touch it. So you had the battle of the soldiers, but you had to have this battle of on the inner realms as well. And it didn't have to be thousands of people taking part, as long as it was enough. And they were bringing through archangels. They were doing visualizations of having armed angels in red robes patrolling the coasts of southern coast and going up and down the UK. But the visualizations were being guided by the ascended masters. They were evolving, and so they started to feature Christian mystical symbols as well as Arthur and Merlin, and bringing it all together on quite a high level. But then these three rays of light coming through that were very Kabbalistic. So it's all very, very interesting. And that was just her part in the battle. We also had Aleister Crowley, the most notorious beast, 666. Now, he was getting
the wickedest man.
Wickedest man, yeah. Now, he'd been very prolific in the First World War, and he'd been in America, and he was writing pro-German literature at that point. But it's actually then since come out that it was very likely he was a double agent. He was working for British intelligence. Well, not a double agent, but he was an agent for British intelligence, and he was tricking them. So when the Second World War started, he was back in the UK, and the first thing he did was like write to MI5 and go, look, I can be of help. And he did actually come and contribute and help, because we had occultists in MI5 and MI6, and they were working in the Department of Propaganda.
Oh, do you know what this reminds me of? Do you know when you read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and really the battles on the ground are happening, but the drama is the gods above. Yeah. And that's the ones that are sort of taking it really, really seriously. So what you're describing is obviously devastating war. Nobody wins in a war, but the fact that the occult and the esoteric world are taking part in every, nook and cranny, that to me is fascinating, because I knew a little about it. Like, the obvious stuff, the symbols, you can't avoid it. I knew about the witches in the New Forest, obviously, like the obvious stuff. But the little intricacies that you're telling, as if, we know all that sort of stuff, define we need your movie to know all that stuff.
Exactly. And because, of course, you've got to remember that Winston Churchill was a regular attender of seances. And I think what we tend to forget nowadays is we tend to put mediumship and psychic work over here and magical work and witchcraft over there. And there's only a few people that would sort of have a foot in both camps. And it's not widely kind of like approved of in a way. Either camp don't always approve of the other. So the people who are involved with both is quite a minority. And but you got to remember, at that time, seances were all the rage. That's what people used to do. In sort of like they'd go around to see people and have a seance, and it was quite a socially acceptable thing. And why is that? Because they'd had wars that had seen hundreds of thousands of young men just go off and never come back. There'd been the Crimea War, the Boer War, the First World War, and there was such the rise in spiritualism was there very much in America as well. But I think the reason it became so popular is because people had a desperate need to try to have some sense of a life beyond. So Arthur Conan Doyle lost his own son and spent so much time trying to investigate, about life after death, some indication, not just out of desperation, but because they just couldn't believe that there wasn't, And so Churchill was already taking part in that. And he was an initiated druid as well.
Right.
Yeah, but you've got to, at the same time, you must remember that so was all the royal family. So that's kind of like an hereditary courtesy role. Mm-hmm. We're not saying that he had to rush out there before sunrise and celebrate every festival because of a personal passion. It was a nod and a connection to the ancient mythology running through the land, which again brings us back to the Arthurian energies, the mythology. Instead of just ignoring it all, like so many leaders might do nowadays in this country, what we had there was sort of an acknowledgement of these old traditions, even though they weren't the official things that people were saying this is our main creed. And so he was going to seances. He was a druid. He had people working in MI5 and MI6, Cecil Williamson. He had also Ian Fleming. They were occultists and they were Rosicrucians and the occult network. They did know each other. And all the time that this was going on, you have to remember that what they were doing was technically illegal because the Witchcraft Act of 1734, I think it was 1734 or 1735, that was still in effect.
Very applicable.
Yeah, and it covered mediumship. In fact, during the World War II in 1944, Helen Duncan, who was a spiritualist medium, who had 5 children to support, no husband, she was regularly doing seances and entertaining and doing it sort of like as a form of entertainment, and people flocked to her. And people like to mock her as that, oh, yeah, she was just a fraud. She was just a fraud. And there's some speculation about whether she embellished things with some props for the audience or whether she was just demonstrating how you might fake it. But the truth is that she brought through the spirits of dead sailors from a sunken warship in Southampton in 1944. And nobody knew that ship had sunk. The military had deliberately withheld the information from the public because they didn't want to affect morale. So once they realised that she was bringing through these messages and the news got out through her seances, they basically arrested her under the Fraudulent Medium Act, under the Witchcraft Act.
Yeah.
Not Fraudulent Medium Act, sorry, that's what replaced it, under the Witchcraft Act. Now, if anyone else was arrested under this Witchcraft Act for being a fraudulent medium, they would get something like a £5 fine and a slap on the wrist. That's a lot of money in those days. She got thrown in prison for 9 months.
Wow.
To shut her up.
And to
they
sort
could
of
not
risk.
Yeah, they could not risk her coming up with something else that they wanted to keep secret. So it's gone down in history that she was the last witch in England. But the irony is that she wasn't a witch at all. She was a medium. So we've got mediumship weaving its way all the way through. Blavatsky channeled all of her messages that inspired Dion Fortune and were abused by the Nazis through mediumship. Dion Fortune connected with Blavatsky and her ascended masters through mediumship, was then guided what to do all the way through the war through mediumship. And now we have Helen Duncan and Churchill linking with mediumship. So these worlds were very much intertwined, even if nowadays we think that they're very separate.
I kind of like that I feel like they're creeping back together now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's down to social media or because the aesthetics are very similar, but I feel that now people who are into readings are kind of ready to take a step further, because what point is there in a reading in figuring out what's coming up in the future if you don't also have a little bit of push for destiny? That's what my band will be called. A little push for destiny.
Push for destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to be
I've got a naughty mind. I've got a naughty mind.
Let's push for destiny in order to make some changes in the future. Because to me, my psychic identity and the witchy identity, you couldn't tear them apart. You'd need some serious sort of surgical implements to separate them. Lorna says the prison for Helen Duncan would have been awful too. So that's very good point.
But Churchill did actually say that it was absolutely ludicrous what had happened to her. And even though he wasn't solely responsible for it, he lent after the war was finished, he did push for the Witchcraft Act to be repealed. It was finally repealed in 1952. So all of our witches and occultists, and we haven't talked about the New Forest Coven yet, but they were all doing their secret occult work, obviously, illegally.
Yeah,
absolutely illegally. And MI5 and MI6 knew about it.
It's probably like the one of the most ridiculous laws that there are, because the harm of doing a reading is really very, very limited. So we actually do live readings on this show, and we've got somebody waiting backstage. Do you need to crack your knuckles before we do a lovely reading? What cards have you got with you?
Well, I've got 3 decks actually, but I've got these gorgeous ones here. You know, I'm a devotee of Hecate. I love Hecate. Well, I've met some lovely, lovely priests and priestesses of Hecate internationally through our mutual friend Sarita, and one of them sent me these most amazing cards that they've designed. They're all major arcana and they're gorgeous. They're designed by Larry Phillips.
Oh, wow.
And he's a brilliant artist. He's painted all of those.
Those are wonderful.
They're gorgeous. So I think we'll use those.
Right. Let me bring up our client for tonight. Everybody put your hands together for Natasha. Hey.
Hi, good evening. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for jumping in with us. Do you know Carrie?
Through the channel in the past, a very, very long time, I believe.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, I thought you'd remember her because I know how long we've known each other. How exciting. So did you have a specific topic that you wanted to look at, or are you more interested in a bit of a general reading? What shall we do for you tonight, Natasha?
If possible, please, a general reading, go with the flow and see what happens. That'd be great.
Lovely. Thank you.
What astrological sign are you, please, Natasha?
Capricorn.
Okay. Right, I'm just going to shuffle these cards. I'd like you to just tune into them and tell me when you'd like me to stop.
Stop, please.
Okay. Okay, now just tell me 1, 2, or 3.
3, please.
Okay. Right. Oh, that's lovely. Look at this. This is interesting. You are at a crossroads at the moment. It's the equivalent of the Hangman card, but very much depicting the crossroads energy. And these are designed by a priest of Hecate, and she is the goddess of the crossroads. And even if sometimes you don't know which way to turn, it's really important to just be a little bit still and be aware of the choices that are right in front of you. You know, the crossroads is a very, very magical time in your life to be at the crossroads. And okay, wow. Okay, it's saying what I want you to do, really. I've got some, I mean, these are all major arcanas, but here's your crossroads. Oops, there's your crossroads, right? So even though it feels like you can't walk one way or the other right now, you have all of the choices there available to you, followed by the beautiful star card, followed by the Fool card. So the star card tells us that this is the time to really focus. Remember your dream. Remember what you truly wish, what you truly want for it. It's almost like, you know, sometimes we might have an idea of what we want to do, and then we go and compromise and go, well, if I did this, that would make sense. I could maybe make it fit there. Or, you know, we're kind of trying to make it fit around us. I always feel with the star card, it's like coming back to the essence of what you would really, truly like to do. Okay, and followed by the Fool card, that tells me it's a time of new beginnings. So if you're thinking of making a change in what you do for a living, or where you live, or if you want to bring about any change around in your life, even if it feels like so much choice right this minute and you can't act straight away, that crossroads and the Hangman card together, just by focusing on the true essence of what you want, will enable you to make a fresh start. And I do feel that that would happen within a period of 5. So you could be making this happen within 5 weeks, 5 months at the absolute outside. But just really listen to your heart and to your spirit on it, and go at the pace that feels right for you. No one else is dictating the pace of what you do here.
Okay.
So would you like to ask me some more about that? Do you want me to elaborate?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, yeah, it kind of hits the nail at the moment, so that's good to know as well.
I don't want you to tell me too much, but do you want me to sort of say, just ask me maybe like a question, like if you had 2 choices, you could say, is A or B right?
In my head, yeah, I guess is my is
Oh, I can't hear you, darling. Hang on.
Natasha, your connection was a little bit funny, so that sounded tinny.
Okay.
There you go.
Me now, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Which would option A or B come about first? I guess in my head.
Okay, I'm going to just take a couple of cards now for option A. Option A, is option A going to come around first? I think with option A, we've got to sift through a few more details. We've got the temperance. We need to sift through a few more details, a bit more research to be done. And also, I feel with the temperance card, it's about judging what's the right time. I always feel a bit like, you know, if I was cooking and I was like sifting flour from one thing to another to get it right, or to get the ingredients right, or do you see what I mean? I'm trying to find the right time and the right quantities with that. It is followed by the magician card, which is focus, will, confidence, making it happen. So that's two very different paces going on with option A. Sifting through, which can literally be waiting for the right time or waiting for the right ingredients and elements of information before moving forward. You will know the time to push forward. But also, as it's the magician card, I feel that you would feel like the magician, but there might be a male energy that's also very confident in helping you forward with it at that point. The magician could represent there as a man. So let's look at option B. And we were saying, is this one going to come first? With option B, well, I think with option B, it's almost like I've got a rhythm of its own, and there's other people involved. Are you in? I mean, sorry to have to ask you questions, but are you actually in a relationship at the moment?
No, I'm not. No.
Well, there's a love connection around option B. So it's either a person.
It's related to love, actually. That option.
Oh,
B,
is it?
so,
Okay. Well, it's about
which
love.
one comes first?
Yeah. Possibly option B, but I think option B could be coming first. But you're going to feel that it changes you for the, you know, not in a bad way or anything like that. But you feel that you are a changed person for it. Yeah. In a good way. In a good way. It's a time of transformation, and I think that whenever you go through change, you're not fluffy about it. You feel it to your very bones and soul. You know, you feel things very, very deeply, and it's a great blessing, even if it means that you feel like things are a bit intense sometimes. I think it's a great blessing to experience things in such a deep level, but you need to allow yourself moments to go off and really. I hate to use the word process because that's not really appropriate, but to go through the different stages of it. You know, I've got a lovely crow in this one as well, so it's nice because we've got this sort of little version of the crossroads on the ground as well, and we've got that crow there. So I think that this autumn time, this time of the crows, this time of the gothic kind of imagery, the ravens, you know, I think it's very good. It is a time of transformation, and you can work with that energy. We've got Samhain on Thursday, so you know, embracing change. You know, the best thing you can do is sort of, you can't control other people in the whole love situation because you wouldn't be happy with the outcome. But what you can do is you can say, let me release from me anything that I really don't need to bring with me. Let me step into the next version of myself, because to go into that love relationship, that love situation, you've got to walk towards that version of it that is the next you. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Love doesn't always come to us. We go towards it, and we meet on that path, and we become someone different by the time we get there.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sorry, I think there's a bit of a delay.
So is there anything else you'd like to know, my dear?
I think those two sides, option, I've been toying with the whole sort of, will a move happen first or love? That's the main areas I've been focusing on. And you mentioned how option A, there could be a male figure that helps. So I guess kind of makes sense if B somehow comes about
Yeah,
first.
exactly. And especially with that sifting through, if that was about a move, then because I couldn't tell when I looked at it what that change was for, but the temperance card for about a move is really about sifting and searching and researching and
Yes.
pros and cons and this and that. You know, you've got to really know that the whole thing inside out before you know what's right for you. But when you know it's right, you'll feel it.
Yeah.
But you've got to be the best informed person about the whole areas before you do that, you know.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us, Natasha. Did you have fun?
Thank you. Oh, no, it was amazing. Thank you for inviting. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Ma. We'll see you on the ground.
Bye. Love and light.
Love and light. Right. That was fabulous, Carrie. And such amazing hits. Because you knew that the thing that she was asking for is a love thing.
Yeah.
And then you asked about it and it looked like a no, but it was, you know, it was a big yes.
Mm.
Oh, do you know, we've got a few questions coming in, a few readings coming in. Sorry, there's somebody spamming the messages. So just give me a second to put user in timeout. I didn't even know I had that option there. There we go. Hope that's a lot quieter for those of you enjoying the enjoying the messages. But would it be better for you, Carrie, if we were to put all the questions in a little folder and do them towards the end? Or would you fancy? Yeah.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
So
because I'm navigating my way around the screen.
Yeah. I know. So oh wait, why is that? Did that person log again? Ban user and delete their comment. There we go. There we go. Yeah, so Isa, your question is fabulous, and we will do it towards the end. In the meantime, I'm just trying to get rid of the person's finding the comments. Anyway, yeah, I was actually going to mention to you to give a big hand to the person behind the scenes, pulling the levers and pushing the buttons. It's me. So no need for an extra hand. Although, why is this not permanent? Why can I not just ban user and delete their comment? Do they keep logging on as different people? Anyway, if any of you Twisted, you might know a lot more than I do about this system, so don't hesitate to jump in. No patience for spammers, haters. That's it. That's it. We accept everybody else. So we were chatting about the historical significance of the occult scene, literally over the sort of past 100 years. Where does your movie come into it? What are we doing with it?
Well, I think really, you know, first of all, we've seen so many movies about World War II. We've been seeing so many programs, television documentaries, a lot of them wildly inaccurate about the Nazis and their love of the occult in World War II, glamorizing them, doing all this. No one has ever looked at what the British occultists did. And, you know, they were very secretive. They weren't, I mean, they didn't have social media. They weren't taking Instagram posts going, hey, here we are doing our ritual. But when we had the New Forest Coven come together, they literally lived on the coast. They were in one of the locations that would have been first in the invasion.
Yeah.
And some of the members of that coven were actually ARP wardens. So their job was to go around at night, making sure everyone had the lights out and their blackout on all the windows and things like that. So they said, look, you know, they met through the Rosicrucian Theatre Group, which had evolved after the Golden Dawn had disbanded. And they had a sense of recognition when they met each other. And they believed that they had been witches in previous lifetimes because they believed in reincarnation. So they kind of sat down and they went, look, we believe we're too old to go to war. What can we do? But we believe we're witches. We believe we can do magic. Let's do something. And most of the members of that coven were from quite well-to-do backgrounds, because a lot of the people who were involved in esoteric studies and Golden Dawn, that they were quite well-to-do in order to even have the time and the inclination to be able to do that. But there were some members of this group that had had a bit more working class roots, but had also had a great life involved in esoteric studies, and that was the Mason family. And there was family history going back through generations that said, look, this kind of magic has been done before, when Napoleon was going to invade, threatening to invade, when the Spanish Armada was going to come. They said that the witches did weather magic. Big storms happened, and that's what blocked the Spanish Armada. And that there was a legend, because it was just told kind of orally, this tradition, that a cone of power was raised and directed to say you cannot cross the channel. So the New Forest Coven decided that that's what they were going to do. And Gerald Gardner was a newly initiated member of this coven. And a lot of people make a lot of fuss about the fact, oh, well, it was Gardner and he did this and they were all sky-clad. They weren't, in my opinion. It's very, very unlikely that they were sky-clad when they did this ritual, because he was only newly initiated and it wasn't his coven. And he and the high priestess were both ARP wardens, and everything had to be very, very hush-hush, because if they'd got caught traveling around after dark, they could have been in massive trouble.
Right.
And if they'd been making any light, they could have been caused a lot of trouble. So I think it's very unlikely that they decided to take all their clothes off in the middle
In the
of the
dark with no lights on.
Yeah.
Where would you find your pants afterwards? We've all been there. Whose pants are these?
Exactly. And so I think there's been so much legend about this, and Philip Heselton has devoted many decades researching the life of Gerald Gardner and searching for the roots of the New Forest Coven and where this ritual may have taken place. And then they've got Dr. Julia Phillips. She's researched a great deal, and she thinks it didn't take place outdoors, and she's got lots of reasons of why certain things didn't happen. However, my opinion is, I believe it did happen, but some of her arguments that they couldn't have possibly done this ritual on that night, or Lammas 1940, that was the main ritual that they did, but they did do it 4 times, this ritual. She said it couldn't have been then because it was a dark moon. They would never have been able to see their way around the New Forest. Now, you're forgetting that these people lived there.
Yeah.
And some of their houses backed onto the forest. So if you had, like there was a bed and breakfast that Philip Heselton refers to at the beginning of In Search for the New Forest Coven, and that opened up onto the woods in the background. You had Dorothy Clutterbuck, who had a house with this enormous big ornate fireplace with carved ram's heads and a goddess head. They could have been indoors. They could have been in someone's garden. But I live in a house backing onto woodland, and if I'm right in the middle of the Queen's Woods, I can get lost. But if I'm going out the back of my garden into the woodland, I know exactly where everything is. And who better to navigate their way around in the dark than the ARP wardens? They have these special lanterns with shutters on that just shine a little bit on the ground. And who knows the terrain better in the dark than them? And that's the high
unlike
priestess
towns
of
and
Zaragoza.
cities, unlike towns and cities, the trees stay where they are.
Yeah.
If you don't, I have not been inside your house in now 15 years. If you drop me in the back of your house, I will find my way to the center of Queen's Wood because the trees are in the same place.
Yes, absolutely. And there's another legend surrounding the ritual, is that they say that some of the people died after the ritual. Now, a lot of the members, they had 17 people for this ritual. And that meant reaching out to other covens and getting people to come across. Now, Dr. Julia Phillips says that you couldn't travel very far. You couldn't really drive, couldn't travel very far. So they would have had to be quite close by. But they did have horses and they did have bicycles. And they did have people they could go and stay with. So did people die afterwards? Well, some people were quite elderly. There's a theory that if they were sky-clad, then they would have been wearing a kind of a grease on their bodies to protect them from the cold, and that the people who chose to sacrifice themselves didn't put the grease on, and that's why they died from hypothermia. But as Dr. Julia Phillips has pointed out, well, if you look at the meteorological details, the records for that time, it was August. It wasn't that cold. So it's very unlikely that somebody would have died from hypothermia, from not wearing any clothes and being
Down
outside for a few
south,
hours.
again,
Yeah.
I've done skyclad rituals. I'm not outing you, but I've done them, say up to November time. Would definitely not die from it.
No.
Definitely not deathly. Although I will say, when I moved up to Yorkshire, I thought, how much colder can it be than London? The answer turned out to be very, very, very much colder. And it has really occurred to me that who settled here? Who? Why? Why are there ancient settlements here where it can't have been balmy and nice, even in the turn of, of the emergence of humanity?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that there's a lot of speculation exactly how and it happened or didn't happen. I think it did happen. I know that they wanted it to happen, and I think that they were well suited to making it happen, and that it may very well have been in someone's house or just outside the back of their garden.
Yeah.
But what they did is they created a cone of power, of energy, and they directed it to Hitler to say, you cannot come, you cannot cross. Now, it's important to remember that the New Forest Coven and Dion Fortune were very adamant that their magic would be defensive only. People were suggesting to Dion Fortune, oh, come on, let's use this magic to kill the Nazis. And she was adamant from the absolute start, no, this must be defensive only, because it was coming from a higher vibration from the Ascended Masters. So there was a kind of a spiritual purity about it all. So it was always defensive. And, did their magic work or didn't it? Well, the Nazis didn't invade. At that time, when they were literally expecting an invasion any day, we can't imagine what it must have been like for everybody in the UK, because they were bracing themselves like this every day. Suddenly, Hitler decided to do an about turn and invade Russia instead, and that was a disastrous move. And by many, it's regarded as the beginning of the end. Yeah. Now, up until that point, it was seemingly unstoppable. So we can't prove that the combined magic of the witches and the occultists helped. But we can't, maybe it's just a coincidence, but is there such a thing as a coincidence in the world of magic?
No, I really, really agree with that. And I really love what you said about defensive magic, because I struggle to explain how and why magic would exist, and yet we're not all living in palaces, eating gold, and riding our donkeys to the forum, because that's not what magic is for. And and that pretty much sort of leads to the concept that magic is neither good or bad. It just is. But yeah, that's really beautiful. So how can people find you to follow the emergence of the movie, to support the movie, to maybe share their skills and ideas with you?
I would love that. It's World War Witches documentary Facebook page at the moment is the best place to go. We have just run our initial crowdfunder, which is just about to conclude in a couple of days. And we have secured some private funding as well outside of that. So we are now in a position to go ahead and film all of our interviews over the winter months, but we are still crowdfunding for this. So as the one crowdfunder finishes, we will be starting another one, probably in the new year. And if people want to get involved, or if they want to pledge donations or even invest, because we actually want to take this forward to film festivals. We've got a connection with the Cannes Film Festival, and we want to raise this up to be a proper feature-length documentary, because as much as it seems to be very niche for the esoteric communities, this is also a film with massive commercial appeal, because it is a story of the unsung heroes of World War II. World War II is always fascinating to people, and especially now, we need to remember the past, and to have this story of these remarkable individuals risking everything to just stand strong and find this deep sort of strength and hope and resolve within them. It's just very inspiring. So it's a kind of a story that should be very uplifting for people, as well as fascinating to watch. So for people who already know a little bit about these characters in history, they're going to find it fascinating. But I think also other people who don't even know about them yet will find it very interesting. So that's where we're going. That's where we're heading. We're going to be shooting all the way over next year. And please get in touch with us, follow us. There will be a website going up there as well in the next couple of months. And yeah, World War Witches documentary, Facebook is just like the first port of call. And we'd love to hear from you. If you've got any research, if you've got any extra stories that we can look into, that would be really helpful as well.
That's amazing. Right below, I put the link to the crowdfunder for whoever wants to be involved. Yeah. As you can see, Carrie is the friendliest. So go right ahead and get in touch.
Yeah. That one finishes on the 3rd of November. So that's, you know, it's all ironic that we've got most of our money come from outside of it at the moment, but that's fine.
That's also magic. Do you know, I tell that to people about money magic all the time. Yeah. Don't be picky. Don't be picky. Yeah. Don't be like, you know, I need for this to come from here. No, the shortfall will be made up from somewhere else. That's still
absolutely,
fine.
Absolutely. No, we've got 10,000 coming in about 3 weeks. And there's just a few hundred on here at the moment, but you can, if you get there before 3rd of November, get some really interesting rewards, like a personalized video message from Dion Fortune or Alistair Crowley or Gerald Gardner. You can even pledge to have a role in the film in one of the dramatic reconstructions as well. Like maybe you'd like to play one of the New Forest Coven, or maybe you'd like to be one of the people working in MI5 alongside Churchill. So, you know, there are opportunities there. But just, you know, let us know. We're going to have some private screenings as well. We've got the Vintage Cinema lined up in Shoreditch with themed Cone of Power and Inner Plains cocktails. So that's another thing that people can pledge for as well.
Amazing.
That
really is a lot. I think that was a very exciting conversation for everybody. We've just got a couple of reading requests on the sides. So we're starting with Isal Saba, who says, very, very excitingly, says, hello, I'll be doing tarot readings at a public event for the first time. I am well read on theory, but I've only really practiced readings for myself. Could I please have some advice?
Okay. Well, I found that when I first started reading, I used to use the proper official interpretations for the cards first. And once I knew I'd cover all the bases with that, I would allow myself to add more. You know, so that because I knew that I'd already given them enough of a reading. And then some of the stuff I'd come out with, and my logical brain was thinking, what on earth are you saying that for? But never mind, at least you've already given them a reading. And it would be sometimes those extra things that would just come out of nowhere. That
they were the wow factor.
Mind blown, you know. So I would do both. Give them, you know, tarot reading is a kind of art in the fact that you can learn the actual readings of the cards and read just like that. You don't have to be doing it psychically. So have faith in doing that. You know, stick with something simple like a Celtic cross spread, or if you want to go to something a little bit more intricate, you can do the astrological spread where you put 12 cards down, one for each of the astrological houses. So, for example, the house of Gemini, the third one, would represent all communications. The house of Cancer would represent the home. So that kind of gives you a nice way of referencing what that card means in that part of their life. So they're two very nice spreads, which are very accessible, I think. And then give them what you know from the theory, and then just see what you feel on top of it.
Fabulous. I also sort of pulled a card, Isa. I don't know if you wanted that, but look at that. You've got the success card. So whatever you say, people are going to love it. And when you give a reading, confidence is a big part of it. Don't hide away. Exactly like how Carrie said that it's the stuff that you think, wow, that I've just said really bonkers stuff. That's exactly the stuff. That is the stuff that will make somebody tell their friends, oh, you're not going to believe what Isa said to us. people are going to love it. If you need extra practice, what I share when I teach is just sort of read for people that are on TV. They don't have to hear the reading. Read for us right now. You don't even have to tell us what you, but it just gets you in the vibe of reading for people. Because the issue is, when you're still learning, doing practice readings on like nothing, on like, let's pretend I'm doing for somebody like a love reading, it won't make as much sense because you're not linking with the energies of like a person. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And we've got just one question from the lovely Crystal, and I think you're going to adore that question. She says, I received a beautiful gift from a person not known to give me gifts. This person has been giving me gifts lately. What is this person's intentions for me? Thank you so much. Isn't that suspicious?
Wow. Wanting friendship, definitely. I've got the lovely card of the sun, so it is about warmth and friendship. I think they've been through quite a difficult time. I think they've had a lot of upheaval, and maybe the rug pulled out from under their feet a little bit in their life, and it's made them reevaluate. Look, life's too short. Let's be nice. I think they're kind of, they get a lot from sharing and being generous, and I think that is, it kind of makes them feel good. And they have a lot of respect for you. I've got the Empress. They would like to take things further, to get closer with you, but do respect you an awful lot and think that you're quite powerful within your own energy. So they look up to you.
That's wonderful. What would you say, like, let's say this person, fine, this person is, an admirer, but if you were to receive a gift from somebody not known for gift giving, and your suspicions were aroused, what would you do with a gift? Would you put it in the bin? Would you sprinkle something on it? Put it through a flame? Personally, I know it's a really personal question because everyone's got their own tastes.
You can always waft it in some incense or some sage, and put an intention of like, let me release any, if there's any negative energies associated with this, may it be released and cleared.
Yeah. I'd probably put it through incense and also salt water to put, to get all the
salt water. Depends what it is.
Fabulous. Oh, Crystal says, wow, thank you very much. I literally cleansed the gift and put it on my altar.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Cleansing.
Is it an altar
Maybe
gift?
It's a crystal. Maybe it's a crystal.
I hope so. Yeah, crystal for crystal. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, got it in one. It
was a
moonstone
necklace
from a cave in Mexico. Yay.
I mean, moonstone does hold a lot of energy, and it does represent a sort of like emotional, intuitive link. So I'm not surprised that you were feeling it was a bit charged. But maybe some of those energies that you were picking up on would have also come from the people that made it and sold it. Because they're quite receptive, those stones.
It carries, but I also think because the moonstone is sort of quite a maternal energy, and you were picking up on the maternal vibes around that gift anyway. So that was, 2 hits for one stone. And Isa says, thank you. I'm also using the Fluff Tarot. I'll be sure to stick with what I have learned, but see what happens. Beautiful. Then keep going with the flow. And Crystal says, absolutely. Excellent. Right. We've got to start winding down. This has been so much fun.
Already?
I know. We used to do like 5-hour shows together.
Exactly. But it's been so lovely talking with you and talking with your lovely viewers as well, because what an amazing energy you've got created here. It's lovely.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been so incredible being involved with the channel, because what you've got here is not just psychic stuff. You've got paranormal investigators, you've got UFO people on here, you've got Bigfoot researchers. So we're kind of covering all different types of esoterica, and it's kind of funny that you started by looking back at the time when when all the occult was kind of under one umbrella, even though we see it as separate. And on this channel, even the more like far-reaching parts are still under the same umbrella, because at the end of the day, I say to my dad, I always say to my dad, alternative people stick with alternative people. We know about each other. We don't need to all believe in all the things. We've got to keep each other protected from all the normies.
Yes, exactly. Normies are weird.
Yeah, what are they on? Exactly.
Weird is normal.
So, first of all, thank you to everybody watching. And thank you, Carrie, so much for joining. It's been a joy, and a really Halloweeny joy as well. This has been
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've loved it.
A real Samhain treat. And I'm sure I'll be knocking your door down to come up again. All new viewers, make sure you like, subscribe, and all the regular things. We are here coast to coast and around the world. In a couple of days, we've got Halloween, Samhain, the Celtic New Year on the 1st of November. We've got a new moon in Scorpio. So a good time to set your wishes and set your intentions. Let me have a quick look at the slide of our sponsor. See if I manage to stick it on the screen. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Right, you're going to not see me for a second while I read out that. Wait, where have I got it? Aha, there we go. This show is brought to you by Rest in Peace Paranormal Gear. Right? That was cool. So to everybody joining us, it'll be amazing to see you again. Thank you so much. I loved having you as part of the journey. Everyone, put your hands together for Carrie for joining us. Yay! Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.